They're a little tighter to get on. So you're gonna want maybe put a little Marvel Mystery Oil or something on those to get those to slide on. You may have to tap them on because they're tight, because there's like an oil seal on these for the intake valves. So we're gonna do that and get this all. I got this thing compressed. Now what I like to do is on these keepers put a little grease so they stick and they don't fall all over the place. It's already a pain in the butt getting those in there. So I put a little assembly lube that's sticky and it'll hold it in place. So that's what we'll do now. We'll get these back in this cylinder head. It looks really good. Cleaned up real nice. Like I said, they're seated real well. And be patient with these little keepers. They're kind of a pain, but when you use that assembly lube, that helps stick them in place. All right, we got the new pistons out. It doesn't matter which way these pistons are facing. I don't think they're directional in any way. They're cut the same. But this one has an arrow facing, these have arrows facing forward, so I went ahead and faced them forward. Sometimes they'll come with the circlips on the inside, and that's for installation purposes. But if not, you want to install the circlips on the inside, so it would be on the inside of the rod when you're putting that on. So you don't have to try and install it once it's in. So you want to get the circlip on the inside of each piston before you put it on the rod itself. So we did that. I got that in there already. Now we're gonna go to the rings. All right, we got the rings on the new piston here. I'm getting ready to put the rings on the new piston here. You have yourself an oil ring. Well, there's 3 oil rings and they go on the bottom, but these kind of go on top of each other. And that zigzag one goes in the middle. Whatever, I don't know the technical term for it. But when you put this in, you want to make sure this doesn't overlap here. You do not want these like laying into each other or coming close. You want them butted up against each other. So make sure you do that. And I think it's 120 degrees. You keep the gaps away from each other. Make sure you check your end gap. I don't know off the top of my head what the end gap is. You'll have to look that up. But you check that first before you put the rings on. So we're going to get that done. I'm all shaved up because Mama wanted me to shave up for Christmas. So anyhow, that's all. These pistons and rings all oriented correctly. We're going to actually put these into the bottom of the cylinders, and which is kind of unusual because normally you put them on the connecting rods first and then lower the cylinder down on it. We're going to lower the cylinder down with the pistons in the cylinder, and then you come through the side with your wrist pins and they just slide in through the side. And that's why we put the keepers on the inside of these pistons, to avoid any problems of sliding, being able to get to the wrist pins once they're in. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. All right, pistons are in the cylinders. We got the base gasket on this, so that's ready to go. I need to push these pistons down just a little more, make sure they're in all the way so they don't hang up on anything. And then we're going to go ahead and get those wrist pins staged. Now I'm going to lift it up onto the motor here and slide those wrist pins in. And then we got to put those little C clips in, which probably won't be too fun, but we're going to go ahead and do that right now. We get the wrist pins in, and we're going to remove the rags and slowly slide that those piston cylinders down onto the cases. Do that now. All right, I got the cylinder head, or the cylinders on now. That looks nice and pretty. No help from him at all. Now we got the cylinder head we got the head gasket on now. We're gonna go ahead and put the head on, and then we're gonna torque it down. Polaris recommends that you oil these bolts with a little PS4 engine oil before you do it. So you do the threads and the between the head of the bolt and the washer and against the cylinder or the head itself. So we'll do that too. Got the head on. I've cleaned these bolts up, and now I'm going to oil them. I got a syringe with some PS4 oil that I'll hit with a little oil here and on the threads, and then we'll drop them in. All right, got it torqued down. It's 35 PSI. You wait a minute and then you go a quarter turn, 45 degrees or whatever. And then it's, or 90 degrees, I don't know, 45 degrees. Yeah, 90 degrees. Yeah, whatever. Quarter turn. Anyhow, so we got the head all on. Now we're gonna drop the, we're gonna set up the rocker assembly. And I'll show you what we're doing there. The push rods, I'm gonna put some assembly lube on, drop them down to the lifters, and then I'll probably squirt some PS4 engine oil down the inside of those and get those in there, and then we'll move to the next. The rocker assembly all torqued down, 22 foot-pounds. I used assembly lube on everything just to make sure that it was lubricated well. Now what we got to do is throw the valve cover gasket on it. Or valve cover with the valve cover gasket on it. I'm waiting on a new valve cover gasket, so I'll throw it on loosely with the old one until I get the new one in. And I'll put the plugs in there too. So basically, that's everything on this motor. You know, I got to put the dipstick in and cam positioning sensor, a couple other things. But this thing, I'm going to put this to bed here pretty soon. I got to put the starter on it, do all that stuff. But now I'm going to have to focus on this rear end. We got to get this rear end out and get that pinion nut tightened down. So that's the next step in the process. That's all. And now we're going to start tearing into this rear end. This rear end has a failure issue regarding the pinion nut, which is right in here. So we're going to have to separate this rear end right here from the car. We're going to have to get it out of the car so we can address a pinion nut issue that's a problem on these vehicles. They tend to loosen up over time. So we're going to go ahead and pull this rear end now, get it out of the car. I figured I'd do it while the engine's out. We'll pull that out, get that nut tightness of that nut addressed, and then we'll go from there. All right, we're getting ready to drop these axles out. I disconnected this top portion here, and then we're going to pull these axles out, get those out of there so we can get them disconnected from the differential, and then we'll go from there. All right, we're trying to get this pinion nut taken care of. We devised a tool. Don's over there. We made the wrench, but the wrench wasn't deep enough, so we had to get another socket and cut it. But we got the nut off. It was probably only about 30 foot-pounds, right, Don? Probably?
Maybe.
If that. So we're getting this going. We're putting the new nut on. It was just you can see the socket was kind of slipping off the nut there. See how there's little burrs on that? So we're gonna get that thing going. My custom welding friend here, right? Custom welder. Mm-hmm. Got the rear end in. The rear end is in. That nut on there was probably 30 pounds. So it needed to be tightened. What a fiasco, but that's done. Now we're gonna go ahead and start putting the axles in. I drained the gear oil out of that, so I'm gonna fill that with gear oil, the new gear oil for it, and got it sitting over there on the bench with the oil change kit. So we'll get that done, then we'll get the axles back in, start getting ready to put this motor in this car. That's all for now. Trying to get this thing figured out. We got new hoses here. We got the transmission fluid, the rear diff done, the front diff done. We got the motor here. We're mounting this lower motor mount, or the passenger side motor mount. Then we're gonna try and throw this in the car. Fortunately, we don't really know how it goes in the car because we didn't take it out. So we're just trying to figure it out, right, B? Yep. All right, that's all. All right, my buff son is gonna lift this motor into the car. I hope he doesn't destroy his back doing it. So I'm gonna have to try and guide him through this. So we got this on time-lapse video. We'll see if it works, right? That's how it goes, right?
Probably how it goes.
Wow. That took some muscle in it. It wasn't me. That was all my son. So we got this in now. Now we just got to go through and start tightening stuff down, hooking up cables. We might have this girl running tonight. I hope. Woohoo! All right, well, we got this thing running. It's still in pieces a little bit, but overall, I think this was a success. I still need to do some, you know, break-ins and stuff like that on this. My next step will be probably to put a winch on this. I got the winch setting up on the bench right there. I got to clean this train wreck up. This is all, it's still, like I said, if you ever decide to undertake a project like this, just realize I got the engine in a box, basically, in pieces. And all the pieces were just kind of handed to me. Some of them were sitting in the machine, and some of them were in boxes. So I just kind of had to look at schematics, look at exploded views, and try to figure out nuts and bolts. I'm still going through that process right now, trying to figure things out. I wasn't familiar with this thing to begin with. I'm very familiar with it now. I've got the seats in, got the belt on, it runs. It's a good little car. Seems like it's going to be fun. It's not going to be a racing machine by any means, but it'll be something that gets us around out at our house in Arizona, and I can plate it and run it out there. So, like I said, jigsaw puzzle. That's what it was, basically. The only difference between this and a jigsaw puzzle is a jigsaw puzzle you put back in the box and you don't use it. This thing you can use, which makes me enjoy it. So this wasn't a how-to video. This is not a how-to video. This is just a video that kind of shows the progress and the involvement in something like this if you're going to do it. So just be aware, if you take on a project like this, it can be frustrating and time-consuming. But I had a little bit of time to do it over the holidays, and so I thought this was something I wanted to work on, and so I was able to do it. I was able to get it for a decent price. Other issue I'm having is a little leak from the weep hole. I'm going to let it run a little bit longer and see if that goes away. It probably won't, so I'll probably have to pull that water pump apart and put another seal in it. Maybe I dinged the seal or something when I was putting it in. The shaft on the water pump was fine, so I don't think it has anything to do with the shaft. But other than that, we're ready to go. All right, I just wanted to show you guys where we are with this thing. I got the whole back end on. Everything's done, really. I've got the top off because I put a new stereo in this. Just a cheapy stereo. So I've taken the top off because it mounts on the roof and it's easier just to work on. So I've got that off right now. Cleaning it up. Just put a little cheapy $20 stereo from Walmart in it, and working on getting that all wired correctly. But we got the back end on. I bought a water container for this side. I only had one. I had a gas jug for this side, but it didn't have a water container, so I bought a water container so we'd have one out in Arizona. Also, this has a spare tire carrier, so I'm gonna have to get another rim and get a spare tire for it. Other than that, this thing's ready to go. It's got a lot of trunk space, kind of nice. This all came with it, so I can't really complain. Snorkel's all attached now, and everything's ready to rock.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and just remember, I'm just a man in a cave causing mayhem. Thanks again for watching.